Dr. Elena Martinez floated in the observation deck of Aurora Point Station, her eyes fixed on the massive display screen showing deep space communications data. For 3 years now, she had been listening to voices from across the galaxy, voices that spoke in languages Earth was never supposed to understand. The blue glow of the monitor reflected off her tired face as another transmission came through. This one from a trade convoy discussing shipping routes between distant star systems. Elena pressed a button and the alien words transformed into English text on her screen. The translation software had taken months to perfect, built from patterns and context clues gathered from thousands of intercepted messages. Now it worked so well that she could understand conversations between species whose names humans had never heard before. "Any interesting news today?" asked Jake Sullivan as he floated into the observation room. The captain of humanity's secret fleet looked relaxed despite the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. His uniform bore no insignia that any government on Earth would recognize, because technically his fleet did not exist. "The usual trade disputes and political arguments," Elena replied, scrolling through the day's intercepts. "The hegemony is upset about mining rights in the Vega sector, and the Crystal Collective wants better terms for their energy exports. Nothing about Earth, which is exactly how we want it." Jake nodded and moved to the window that showed the curve of Earth below them. Aurora Point orbited high above the planet, hidden from ground-based telescopes by advanced stealth technology that made it invisible to most sensors. The station served as humanity's ear to the galaxy, listening to conversations between civilizations that had no idea humans even existed. "General Hayes wants an update on our fleet status," Jake said, pulling up a holographic display. "All 12 ships are ready for deployment, and the crews have finished their training exercises. The Defiance just completed its shakedown cruise near Jupiter, and the engine modifications are working perfectly." Elena smiled at the mention of the ships. 3 years ago, when the first alien probe had visited the edge of the solar system, most humans would have panicked at the idea of contact with advanced alien civilizations. Instead, the world's governments had made a remarkable decision. They chose to stay hidden and learn everything they could about their galactic neighbors before revealing themselves. The probe had been captured intact near Neptune, its crew never knowing that humans had detected their approach. The technology inside that small scout ship had changed everything for humanity. Within months, Earth's best scientists were reverse engineering alien computers, power systems, and communication devices. What they discovered was both encouraging and troubling. The aliens were more advanced than humans in many ways, but their technology was old and stagnant. Their ships used the same basic designs that had been standard for centuries. Their weapons and shields followed patterns that suggested they had stopped innovating long ago. Most importantly, their sensors were designed to detect known types of technology, which meant that human modifications could slip past their detection systems. "How many civilizations are we tracking now?" Jake asked, settling into a chair beside Elena's workstation. 47 major governments and about 200 smaller political entities," Elena replied, calling up a star map that showed the known boundaries of galactic civilization. "The Galactic Council controls about 60% of explored space, with various independent systems and smaller alliances filling in the gaps. They've been the dominant power for over 3,000 years. The Galactic Council fascinated Elena because of how they operated. They saw themselves as the natural leaders of all intelligent life, bringing order and civilization to primitive worlds throughout the galaxy. Their records showed hundreds of species that had been contacted, evaluated, and either welcomed into galactic society or dismissed as too primitive to matter." "What's their standard procedure for first contact?" Jake asked, studying the map. "They send a survey team to observe a species for a few months, then file a report classifying the civilization's development level," Elena explained. "If the species shows promise, they get invited to join the galactic community. If not, they're left alone until they advance enough to be worth another look." Jake frowned as he processed this information, and Earth got classified as not worth their time. 3 years ago, yes. The survey team spent 2 weeks watching our television broadcasts and monitoring our space activities. They concluded that humans were at least a century away from meaningful space travel and probably 5 centuries away from developing anything the galaxy would consider advanced technology. The irony was not lost on either of them. While the alien survey team was watching primitive human rockets struggle to reach orbit, The world's governments were already working together to analyze the aliens' own technology. The survey ship that had observed Earth was itself being observed by human satellites that its crew never detected. Elena pulled up another screen showing images from humanity's hidden fleet. The 12 ships looked nothing like the boxy, functional designs favored by galactic civilizations. Human engineers had taken alien technology and improved it, creating vessels that were faster, more maneuverable, and far more difficult to detect than anything in the galactic databases. General Hayes thinks we'll make first contact within the next 6 months, Jake said. The question is whether it will be on our terms or theirs. Elena nodded, but her attention was drawn to a new transmission appearing on her screen. This one was different from the usual trade and political communications. It was marked with high-priority encryption and came directly from the Galactic Council's main headquarters. Jake, you need to see this, she said, her voice tight with concern. The message decoded slowly, revealing a formal proposal being debated in the council chambers. Elena read it twice to make sure she understood correctly, then activated the translation program to double-check the meaning. They want to use our solar system as a waste dump, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Jake leaned forward to read the screen. The proposal was matter-of-fact in its language. The council needed a location to dispose of toxic byproducts from their industrial processes. The Sol system was conveniently located, uninhabited by any civilization worth considering, and far enough from major trade routes that contamination would not affect galactic commerce. They're planning to poison our home system, Jake said, his calm demeanor finally cracking. And they don't even consider us worth consulting about it. Elena felt a cold anger building in her chest. For 3 years, humanity had watched and learned and prepared for the day when they would take their place among the stars. They had imagined first contact as a moment of wonder and opportunity. Instead, their galactic neighbors were planning to turn Earth's neighborhood into a toxic waste site without even acknowledging that humans existed. Get me a direct line to General Hayes, Jake said, his voice now hard as steel. It's time to tell the galaxy that Earth is not as quiet as they think. Elena's fingers moved across her control panel, opening secure communication channels to hidden bases around the solar system. The time for watching and waiting was over. Humanity had learned everything they needed to know about their galactic neighbors, and now it was time to teach the galaxy something about underestimating the species from the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star. General Patricia Hayes stood before the massive curved screen in the underground command center beneath Colorado Springs. The faces of world leaders filled the display as the emergency session of the Silent Council convened for only the 4th time in 3 years. President Lisa Carter looked grim from her secure location in Washington, while Premier Chen Wei appeared tired despite the early morning hour in Beijing. Ladies and gentlemen, we all received the intelligence report from Aurora Point, General Hayes began, her voice carrying the weight of command earned through decades of military service. The Galactic Council plans to turn our solar system into their personal garbage dump. They discuss this plan as if Earth were an empty rock with no intelligent life worth considering. Director Klaus Weber leaned forward from his position in Geneva. How certain are we about the translation accuracy? This seems almost too insulting to be real. Dr. Martinez has triple-checked the translation with our best xenolinguistic programs, Hayes replied. The meaning is clear. They want to establish toxic waste processing facilities on Mars, dump radioactive materials in the asteroid belt, and use Jupiter's gravity well to dispose of their most dangerous industrial byproducts. The contamination would make our entire solar system uninhabitable within 50 years. President Carter spoke first. 3 years ago, we made a pact to remain hidden while we learned about our galactic neighbors. We hoped that when we finally revealed ourselves, it would be as equals ready to join a community of civilized worlds. Instead, we discover that they plan to poison our home without even asking our permission. The insult goes beyond the environmental damage, Premier Chen added. They have dismissed humanity as irrelevant. In their minds, we are no more worthy of consideration than bacteria in a petri dish. General Hayes pulled up a tactical display showing the positions of humanity's hidden fleet. 12 ships, each one incorporating technology that surpassed galactic standards in key areas, waited in the outer solar system for deployment orders. Our military analysis suggests we have significant advantages that the galaxy does not expect. Our ships are faster, more maneuverable, and completely invisible to their sensor systems. What about their numbers? Asked Director Weber. Intelligence. Reports show thousands of vessels in the Galactic Council fleet. Numbers matter less when the enemy cannot see you coming, Hayes replied. More importantly, our technology analysis shows that galactic civilizations have become comfortable with their superiority. Their ships use outdated designs, their tactics are predictable, and their weapon systems have not been upgraded in centuries. They have grown lazy. President Carter looked around at the other faces on the screen. We all agreed 3 years ago that humanity deserved a place among the stars. The question now is whether we reveal ourselves diplomatically or make our presence known through other means. Diplomacy requires mutual respect, Premier Chen said firmly. These beings plan to destroy our home system without even acknowledging that we exist. They have made their opinion of humanity very clear. General Hayes activated another display showing communication intercepts from across the galaxy. Our monitoring stations have detected increased chatter about Earth in recent weeks. Some council members are questioning why the Sol system was never properly surveyed for intelligent life. Unfortunately, the waste disposal proposal has enough support to pass their next vote. How long do we have? President Carter asked. The proposal goes to final vote in 6 days, Hayes replied. If it passes, the first waste transport convoys will arrive in our system within 3 months. By then, stopping them would require a full-scale military confrontation. The leaders exchanged glances across the secure video link. Each of them had spent years preparing for this moment. But they had always imagined first contact would happen under different circumstances. Now they faced a choice between revealing humanity's true capabilities or watching their solar system become a toxic wasteland. I propose we send a message, President Carter said finally. Something that will get their attention and make them realize that Earth is not the primitive world they believe it to be. Premier Chen nodded. Agreed, but the message must be carefully crafted. We want to establish our credibility without immediately starting a war. General Hayes touched her control panel and the image changed to show Commander Alex Rivera aboard the stealth ship Midnight Runner. Commander Rivera, your ship is the closest to Council space. Are you ready to begin operations? Yes, ma'am, Rivera replied from his position near the edge of the Alpha Centauri system. We've been monitoring Council military movements and are prepared to demonstrate our capabilities on your orders. What about our diplomatic corps? Director Weber asked. Do we have a message ready? Hayes switched the display to show Dr. Sam Peterson, the chief xenolinguist who had spent 3 years perfecting humanity's understanding of galactic languages and diplomatic protocols. Dr. Peterson has prepared a formal communication in High Galactic, the ceremonial language used for important diplomatic contact between major powers. Peterson appeared on screen from his laboratory beneath the Swiss Alps. The message follows proper diplomatic format for a first contact situation between equal civilizations. It acknowledges the Council's authority over galactic affairs while firmly establishing Earth's sovereignty over the Sol system. The language is respectful but unmistakably clear about our position. Read it to us, President Carter requested. Peterson cleared his throat and began speaking in perfectly pronounced High Galactic, then switched to English translation. To the honored members of the Galactic Council, greetings from the people of the Sol system. We have observed your recent discussions regarding the use of our stellar neighborhood for waste disposal purposes. As the intelligent inhabitants of the third planet of this system, we formally request an audience to discuss this matter and establish proper diplomatic relations between our civilizations. The silence stretched for several seconds. As the world leaders absorbed the implications, the message was simple, but it would shatter every assumption the galaxy had about Earth's development level. The linguistic analysis alone will shock them, Dr. Peterson continued. Perfect High Galactic requires decades of study and cultural immersion. The fact that we can compose formal diplomatic communications in their ceremonial language will prove that we have been watching and learning for years. General Hayes looked around at the faces on her screen. Are we all in agreement? Once we send this message, there will be no going back to our observer status. President Carter spoke for all of them. The Galactic Council has made their intentions clear. They plan to poison our home without even acknowledging our existence. Humanity will not accept this insult quietly. Agreed, said Premier Chen. It is time for Earth to speak. Director Weber nodded. The age of hiding is over. General Hayes turned to her communications officer. Signal Aurora Point. Tell Dr. Martinez to transmit the message on all council diplomatic frequencies. Make sure it reaches every major government and military installation in their space simultaneously. Yes, ma'am, the officer replied, fingers flying over his control panel. Hayes looked back at the world leaders. Message sent. In approximately 4 hours, the galaxy will learn that Earth is not as quiet as they assumed. Ambassador Veltar stared at his communication console in complete disbelief as the message finished playing for the 3rd time. The words were unmistakably clear, spoken in perfect high galactic with proper diplomatic formality that took most species centuries to master. Yet according to every official record, the beings on Sol 3 were primitive creatures who had barely achieved basic spaceflight. Security analysis complete, announced his aide, a nervous young hegemony official whose scales had turned pale with stress. The transmission penetrated our most secure network simultaneously. It was delivered to 43 major government centers and 18 military command posts across council space at exactly the same moment. Veltar's tentacles curled with anxiety as he processed this information. Simultaneous transmission to multiple secure locations required technological sophistication that most council members could barely achieve. The primitive survey reports about Sol 3 made no mention of such capabilities. Across the galaxy on the water world of Tidal Prime, High Chancellor Zixnall convened an emergency session of the Inner Council. The massive chamber filled with representatives from dozens of species, all speaking in hushed tones about the impossible message from the humans. The Chancellor's aquatic form rippled with agitation as he called for order. Colleagues, we face an unprecedented situation, Zixnall announced, his voice carrying clearly through the water-filled speaking chambers. A species we classified as pre-spaceflight has somehow demonstrated advanced communication technology and knowledge of our most formal diplomatic protocols. Council member Thrix, representing the crystalline entities of the Outer Rim, projected her thoughts directly into the chamber's translation matrix. The survey team that evaluated Sol 3 years ago filed a comprehensive report. The humans were using primitive chemical rockets and had achieved only basic orbital operations. How could they have developed such capabilities so quickly? Perhaps more concerning, added General Corax of the Military Committee, is how they gained access to our communication networks. The message was delivered through channels that require encryption keys known only to major council governments. High Chancellor Zixnall activated a holographic display showing the original survey data about Earth. According to this report, the humans were engaged in tribal conflicts using primitive projectile weapons. Their largest space-based operations involved small stations in low orbit around their planet. There was no evidence of advanced technology or unified planetary government. The debate continued for hours as council members struggled to understand how their intelligence could have been so completely wrong. Some suggested that the humans had received outside help from a rival power, while others worried that their own survey methods were fundamentally flawed. Meanwhile, on the rim world of Epsilon Station, Admiral Fluxara received her orders directly from the military committee. Her 3rd fleet was to proceed immediately to the Sol system and investigate these upstart humans. The mission parameters were clear: demonstrate council authority and remind the primitives of their proper place in the galactic order. Ma'am, the fleet is ready for departure, reported Captain Zen from the bridge of the flagship Dominator. 67 vessels including 3 dreadnoughts and full support units. Our intelligence suggests the humans have no significant military capability. Admiral Fluxara studied the tactical displays showing her assembled fleet. By any reasonable standard, it was massive overkill for dealing with a primitive species. Yet something about the human message troubled her. The perfect diplomatic language, the simultaneous transmission, the calm confidence of the tone suggested that Earth might not be as helpless as their records indicated. Set course for Sol system, she ordered. Maximum cruise speed. I want to arrive before these humans have time to prepare whatever surprise they think they have waiting for us. Back at Aurora Point Station, Dr. Elena Martinez tracked the movement of Admiral Fluxara's fleet through intercepted military communications. The Council was taking the human message seriously enough to send a substantial force, but their response showed they still underestimated what they were facing. They're coming in fast and heavy, Elena reported to Captain Jake Sullivan as he reviewed the tactical data. 67 ships, including some of their most powerful vessels. They want to make an impression. Jake studied the fleet composition on his tactical display. The Council ships were large and impressive, designed to overwhelm opponents through sheer firepower and intimidation. Their technology was solid but predictable, following design patterns that human intelligence had studied extensively over the past 3 years. Any word from General Hayes about our response? Jake asked. The Defiance and 11 other ships are to take positions throughout the Sol system, Elena replied, reading from her secured communication terminal. Orders are to remain cloaked until the Council fleet arrives, then demonstrate our capabilities without starting a full-scale war. Jake nodded and activated his command console, sending deployment orders to the rest of humanity's hidden fleet. The 12 ships began moving into position, their advanced stealth systems making them invisible to both human and alien sensors. Each vessel represented years of careful development, combining captured alien technology with human innovation to create something unprecedented. Captain Rebecca Stone piloted the reconnaissance ship Shadowhawk to the edge of Council space, gathering intelligence on military installations and fleet movements. Her reports painted a picture of a galaxy grown comfortable with its own dominance. Council forces operated with predictable patterns, following procedures that had not been updated in decades. Their sensor networks have massive blind spots, Rebecca transmitted to Jake during a secure communication window. They scan for known technology signatures but ignore anything they do not recognize. Our stealth systems are essentially invisible to them. On Earth below, the secret was finally coming out as world leaders prepared their populations for the reality of galactic contact. President Carter addressed the United Nations in a session broadcast worldwide, explaining that humanity had been aware of alien civilizations for 3 years, but had chosen to remain hidden while learning about their neighbors. Today, we sent our first official message to the galaxy, President Carter announced to the assembled delegates and global television audience. We did not ask for permission to exist in our own solar system. We simply informed our galactic neighbors that Earth is inhabited by an intelligent species capable of defending our home. The reaction on Earth was surprisingly calm. 3 years of careful preparation had included psychological conditioning programs designed to ease the shock of learning about alien civilizations. Most humans felt pride rather than fear at the news that their species was finally taking its place among the stars. In the hidden command centers scattered across the solar system, human military officers made final preparations for the confrontation they knew was coming. The Galactic Council's response would determine whether humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage would be peaceful or violent. General Hayes stood in her command center watching status displays from all 12 ships of the human fleet. Each vessel reported ready for combat operations, their crews trained and their weapons charged. The time for hiding was over, and the galaxy was about to learn that Earth's silence had not been a sign of weakness but a strategy for survival. Admiral Fluxara stood on the bridge of her flagship as the Third Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. The tactical displays showed a quiet solar system with the expected planets and asteroid fields, but something felt wrong to her experienced military instincts. The space around Earth looked too peaceful for a system that had just challenged the Galactic Council. Sensors detect one small vessel directly ahead, reported her tactical officer. It appears to be a human exploration craft approximately 100 meters in length. No weapon signatures detected. Minimal shields, engines at standby power. The Admiral studied the lone ship through her view screen. The vessel had clean lines and an elegant design that seemed oddly advanced for a species that was supposed to be primitive. Its hull configuration suggested technologies that her scientists claimed were theoretical at best. Open a communication channel, she ordered. Captain Danny Walsh sat calmly in the command chair of the exploration ship horizon as the massive Galactic Council fleet arranged itself in an intimidating formation around his vessel. The ship's artificial intelligence, speaking with the voice of Lieutenant Amy Foster, provided a steady stream of tactical analysis as more enemy vessels moved into position. Admiral, we are detecting advanced shield harmonics and unusual energy signatures from their flagship, Amy reported through the ship's communication system. Their weapons are powered but not targeted. They appear to be trying to intimidate us rather than immediately attack. Danny nodded and opened the communication channel as Admiral Fluxara's image appeared on his main screen. The alien commander looked exactly like the intelligence files had described. A tall, graceful being with flowing features and the confident bearing of someone accustomed to instant obedience. I'm Admiral Fluxara of the Galactic Council 3rd Fleet, she announced in perfect galactic standard. You will immediately power down your vessel and prepare to be boarded. Your species has overstepped its bounds by challenging Council authority. Danny smiled politely and responded in equally perfect high galactic. Admiral, I am Captain Danny Walsh of the Earth vessel Horizon. By what authority does the Council claim jurisdiction over a solar system you have never properly explored, and over a species you have never formally contacted? The question clearly caught the Admiral off guard. Her facial features shifted in what Danny recognized as confusion and growing anger. The Council maintains order throughout civilized space. Primitive species do not question our decisions. With respect, Admiral, your own records show that no Council representative has ever set foot on Earth or engaged in diplomatic contact with human government. Danny replied calmly. You classified us as primitive based on a brief and inadequate survey, then planned to use our home system as a waste dump without our consent. Admiral Fluxara's patience evaporated quickly. The idea that these upstart humans would lecture her about proper procedure was intolerable. You will cease this insolence immediately. Surrender your vessel or face the consequences. I'm afraid that's not possible, Admiral, Danny said. However, I am authorized to demonstrate why the Council's assessment of human capabilities was incomplete. The Admiral gestured to her weapons officer. Fire a warning shot. Disable their engines but avoid casualties. A brilliant plasma bolt lanced out from the flagship's main cannon, designed to overwhelm the small human ship's defenses and leave it helpless. The energy beam struck the Horizon's shields and simply vanished, absorbed by barrier technology that converted the attack into useful power for the ship's systems. Thank you for the energy boost, Admiral, Danny said pleasantly as his ship's power levels increased. Please allow me to return the favor. The Horizon's response was precisely calculated. A narrow beam of coherent energy reached out and touched the flagship's main sensor array. Not to destroy it, but to demonstrate pinpoint accuracy that should have been impossible at such range. The beam lasted exactly 1 second and caused no casualties, but it left the Council's most advanced warship partially blind. Throughout the Galaxy Watch News Network broadcast live coverage of the confrontation. Billions of beings watched as a single human vessel casually absorbed an attack that should have vaporized it, then responded with a display of precision that made Council military technology look primitive. Admiral Fluxara stared at her tactical displays in disbelief. Her flagship's sensors showed no damage to the human ship, while her own vessel had lost primary detection capability. The energy weapon the humans had used was unlike anything in Council databases. All ships concentrate fire on the human vessel, she ordered, her voice tight with fury. Maximum firepower. 67 Council warships opened fire simultaneously. Antimatter torpedoes, plasma cannons, particle beams, and exotic energy weapons converged on the Horizon's position. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon, and for a moment space blazed with destructive energy that was visible from Earth's surface. When the energy dissipated, the Horizon sat exactly where it had been before the attack. Its shields had not only absorbed the incredible assault but had actually grown stronger from the energy input. Captain Danny Walsh appeared on all communication frequencies, his voice carrying clearly to every ship in the Council fleet. Admiral, your weapons are impressive but ineffective against our defensive systems, he said calmly. Now I believe it's our turn to demonstrate human military capability. Space around the Council fleet shimmered as 11 more human vessels decloaked from perfect stealth. The ships appeared from nothingness, their advanced camouflage systems finally dropping to reveal the true scope of human preparation. Each vessel was larger than the Horizon and bristled with weapons that Council sensors could not identify or classify. Captain Jake Sullivan's voice broadcast from the flagship Defiance on all frequencies. Admiral Fluxara, you are completely surrounded by vessels whose capabilities exceed your understanding. Our technology has developed far beyond what your brief survey suggested possible. You have 2 choices. Withdraw your fleet immediately and report to your superiors that Earth is not the primitive world you believed, or continue this confrontation and learn exactly how advanced human military science has become. The tactical situation was clear to every experienced officer in both fleets. The Council ships were powerful but predictable, designed for overwhelming less advanced opponents through superior numbers and firepower. The human vessels represented something entirely new, adaptive technology that turned enemy attacks into advantages and stealth capabilities that made traditional military doctrine obsolete. Admiral Fluxara looked around her bridge at officers whose confidence had evaporated in the space of minutes. Her fleet outnumbered the humans by more than 5-1, but the technological gap was clearly in humanity's favor. The species that was supposed to be using primitive rockets had somehow developed weapons and defenses that surpassed the best Council technology. "Admiral," her communications officer reported quietly, "we're receiving priority messages from Council headquarters. They're monitoring the Galaxy Watch broadcast and demanding immediate updates." Fluxara realized that her next decision would be watched by the entire galaxy. The Council's reputation for military superiority was crumbling in real time, as billions of beings watched 12 human ships hold 67 Council vessels at bay through pure technological advantage. Admiral Fluxara watched the tactical display for several long minutes before making the decision that would define the rest of her military career. The human ships maintained their positions around her fleet, their weapons powered but not actively targeting. They waited with the patience of predators who knew they held every advantage. "Signal the fleet," she ordered quietly. "All ships will power down weapons and assume defensive formation. We are withdrawing from the Sol system immediately." Her bridge crew exchanged shocked glances but carried out the orders without question. For the first time in 3,000 years of Council military history, a fleet had been forced to retreat by a species that officially did not even exist as a spacefaring civilization. Captain Danny Walsh watched from the horizon as the massive Council fleet slowly turned away from Earth and began moving toward the edge of the solar system. "Admiral Fluxara, please inform your superiors that Earth wishes to establish formal diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council. We suggest that future discussions be conducted between equals." The withdrawal of the Third Fleet sent immediate shockwaves through every Council member world. Emergency sessions convened on dozens of planets as governments demanded explanations for how their most advanced military force had been humiliated by 12 ships from a species they had dismissed as primitive. High Chancellor Zixnal stood before the full Council assembly on Tidal Prime, his aquatic form rippling with stress as he addressed representatives from across the galaxy. "Colleagues, we face a crisis that challenges our fundamental understanding of intelligence and technological development. The humans of Sol 3 have demonstrated capabilities that exceed our own in several critical areas." Council member Thrix projected her crystalline thoughts into the chamber's translation matrix. "How is this possible? Our survey methods have served us for millennia. We have successfully identified and classified thousands of species throughout the galaxy. The humans appear to have been deliberately deceptive." General Korax reported from his position at the military briefing station. "Intelligence analysis suggests they have been monitoring our communications for years while allowing us to believe they were primitive. Their technology combines captured Council designs with innovations we do not understand." Dr. Elena Martinez received the formal diplomatic request from Galactic Council headquarters while monitoring communications from Aurora Point Station. The message was written in careful, respectful language that acknowledged Earth as a legitimate government worthy of formal recognition. The casual dismissal of 3 years earlier had been replaced by nervous politeness. "General Hayes, the Council is requesting immediate diplomatic contact," Elena reported to the command center beneath Colorado Springs. "They want to understand how we achieved our technological capabilities and what our intentions are regarding galactic politics." General Hayes smiled as she read the diplomatic message. The transformation was remarkable. In less than 24 hours, humanity had gone from being ignored as irrelevant to being courted as a potential major power. "Dr. Peterson, prepare a formal response. We will agree to diplomatic contact, but the meetings will be held in our solar system under our security arrangements." President Lisa Carter addressed the United Nations in a session that was broadcast not only to Earth but throughout the galaxy via the communication networks that humans had been secretly accessing for 3 years. Her message was simple and direct. Humanity sought peaceful cooperation with all species. but would never again tolerate being dismissed or threatened. Earth offers friendship, trade, and scientific exchange to any civilization willing to treat us as equals, President Carter announced to the packed assembly hall. We have no desire for conquest or domination, but we will defend our home and our right to exist with whatever means necessary. The establishment of humanity's first official embassy took place in the outer solar system, where a massive space station was constructed using advanced manufacturing techniques that impressed even seasoned galactic engineers. The structure served both as a diplomatic center and as a clear demonstration that human technology was advancing rapidly. Captain Jake Sullivan oversaw the embassy construction from his flagship while maintaining defensive patrols throughout the solar system. The 12 ships of the human fleet had become visible symbols of Earth's new status, their presence reminding all visitors that humanity's hospitality came with clear boundaries. Trade delegations began arriving within weeks, offering deals that would have been unthinkable before the confrontation with Admiral Fluxara. Species that had never heard of humans suddenly competed for access to Earth's markets and technologies. The galaxy wanted to understand how a supposedly primitive world had developed such advanced capabilities. On the rim worlds of galactic civilization, independence movements cited humanity's example as proof that the Council's authority was not absolute. If primitives from an unknown solar system could challenge the galaxy's most powerful military force, perhaps it was time for other worlds to question their place in the established order. Admiral Fluxara submitted her resignation from active duty, but not before sending a personal message to Captain Danny Walsh. In it, she acknowledged what military leaders throughout the galaxy were beginning to understand. Humanity's greatest weapon had never been their technology, but their patience and willingness to learn. Dr. Elena Martinez welcomed the first alien science delegation to Aurora Point, the same station that had once secretly monitored galactic communications. The irony was not lost on her as she greeted researchers from a dozen worlds who were eager to understand human innovations in physics, engineering, and military science. The transformation of galactic politics happened gradually but inevitably. The Council still existed and maintained its authority over most civilized worlds, but its decisions were no longer made with the absolute confidence of the past. Other species began to question whether they too might have capabilities that Council surveys had missed or dismissed. Captain Rebecca Stone continued her reconnaissance missions throughout Council space, gathering intelligence on potential threats and opportunities. Her reports showed a galaxy in transition, where old assumptions about technological development and military power were being challenged by new realities. The waste disposal proposal that had originally triggered humanity's emergence was quietly withdrawn from consideration. No one in the Council chambers wanted to be associated with the plan that had awakened Earth's anger and exposed the galaxy to a new player whose capabilities remained largely unknown. Earth's children began looking up at the stars with different eyes, knowing that their species had claimed its place among the galaxy's great civilizations. Schools taught courses in galactic history and alien languages, while universities established exchange programs with institutions on distant worlds. General Hayes stood in her command center watching status reports from across human space. As the one-year anniversary of first contact approached, humanity had gone from being dismissed as primitive to being recognized as a rising power in galactic politics. The transformation had been achieved not through conquest, but through the patient demonstration that intelligence and determination mattered more than assumed superiority. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders that humanity was only beginning to explore. But Earth was no longer silent, and the species from the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star had proven that even the most advanced civilizations could be surprised by neighbors they had never bothered to understand.